Good afternoon. I'm excited to welcome you to today's Alumni Career Webinar, Conducting a Successful Job Search After a Career Break. My name is Lucy Sandell, and I'm the Associate Director for Career Programs here at the Alumni Association. Our office is committed to helping provide alumni with the resources they need to stay competitive in an ever-changing job market and support the alumni community with career resources, networking channels, and job search capabilities. It's my privilege to introduce to you our presenter today, UChicago alumna Mary Beth Barrett Newman. Mary Beth is an experienced executive, coach, and mentor with 20-plus years of her first career spent in financial services and consulting. She has recruited, trained, and managed countless professionals, but it was her love for coaching and mentoring that led her to the creation of Second Career Consulting, with a unique focus on people re-entering the workforce. Mary Beth's goal is to help each client present his or her best self in all aspects of the job search. In order to do that, she focuses on the unique needs of each client, partnering with them to develop their own unique job search strategy and tools of the job search. Mary Beth is a certified practitioner of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator and Strong Interest Inventory Assessments, a mock interview consultant for Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management, a volunteer advisor at a Chicago area job search nonprofit, and a frequent speaker on issues related to today's job search and returning to the workforce. Mary Beth has an MBA in finance from DePaul University and a BA in business administration from Augustana College. Now let me welcome Mary Beth.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? I'll take that as a yes, since I know you're muted, Lucy. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Lucy and Lauren Forrest, who is also involved in this, for inviting me to speak this afternoon at this University of Chicago webinar on conducting a successful job search after a career break. As Lucy mentioned, I'm a career coach, and while I work with all kinds of people on various aspects of their job search, my niche is really coaching individuals who've taken a career break get back into the workforce. So in this time that we have together today, I'm hoping to share with you some thoughts and, more importantly, some takeaway practical ideas and action items that you can implement in your personal job search. So let's get started. So one of the things that I have found is when someone makes a decision to return to the workforce after they've taken a career break is they just kind of jump into the deep end of the pool and start going, and then realize they're kind of going nowhere fast. And so one of the things I always suggest to people is to take a step back, take a deep breath, and start thinking about this decision. Make a conscious decision about why. Why are you returning to the workforce? Many times people tell me, I always plan to. Now, maybe you thought you'd do it after 2 or 3 years, which has turned into 12 or 15, but they always plan to go back to work. Sometimes it's because of finances. That could be due to a spouse's income going down significantly, or the fact that you're going through a divorce, or many other reasons. And then the empty nest syndrome, which I happen to have an empty nest. I have 2 millennials that are flown away, luckily gainfully employed, and all of a sudden the things we were involved in previously we're not involved in anymore. And the worst reason would be because other people think you should. And think about what you're looking for. Are you looking for a career, or are you looking for a job? And they are both fine answers. It's really about you and what you're looking for at this stage of your life. And be honest with yourself. It's important to start thinking about what's going to be most important to you. Is it pay? Is it flexibility? Is it the ability to advance? Are you thinking about full-time or part-time? I'd suggest to be open on that element of it, because sometimes people are focused on part-time and they're bypassing a whole lot of full-time opportunities that maybe they may be okay with had they know about it. So I really think that doing some of this reflection is the foundation to a good start to a job search. So how do I get from mom, dad, stay-at-home, caregiver, whatever the situation is, to balancing that part of my life and getting back into a career? Looking for a job today is difficult. And while the workforce is becoming more accepting of people with a career break, I wouldn't necessarily go so far to say that, they're embracing those of us who've taken a career break. And regardless of that, the competition for any position is still really difficult. So I feel like I'm telling you all this negative stuff up front, but the good news is it's all doable. Looking for a position today is really different than it was even 5 years ago. And I'm a firm believer that the only people who think it isn't, that think it's easy, just get your resume together, do your LinkedIn, and you're good to go, are people who haven't looked for a job in a while. And so I like to think of it as more of an exploration. It sounds more positive, it feels more positive, and I think that when you think about doing, exploring, you're opening yourself up to maybe some ideas, areas, positions that maybe you wouldn't have been open to otherwise. And to be honest, it's probably going to take a while to find that new position. So pacing yourself is also critical. As I think about some of the important components to success in returning to the workforce, there's 4 things that stand out to me. So let's talk about these, each one of them in more detail. But overall, they are being current, investing in yourself, gaining confidence, and making your search/exploration a priority. You'll find as we talk through that there's elements of each that seem to overlap with each other. So let's talk about being current. This is a big one, especially as it relates to technology. And if somebody said to me, Mary Beth, in the work that you've done with folks returning to the workforce, what do you think is one of the biggest hurdles? I would say this. Technology is one of the biggest hurdles. So if you have kept up to date and you have kept your Word and Excel and even PowerPoint skills intact, and you're using them, and you're using maybe Outlook or, Google Docs or things like that, then you know what, good for you, because that's going to help you tremendously. If you haven't, don't worry. This is something that you can deal with and you can overcome. So my advice to you would be, classes are important, but it's more important to be a user of technology and find opportunities where you can use these tools. And one of the best opportunities is doing some strategic volunteering where you will be in a very, quote, safe environment, and you will be able to learn how to use maybe Excel when you're the treasurer of, the PTA or something like that, and how they use that and how they develop workbooks and all of those kinds of things. And it would be relevant to a position that maybe you might be looking for down the road. So technology is a big one. In addition to the basic Microsoft Office products, also social media. And I find sometimes people are really into it, or they're scared to death of it and they think it's just for kids. Not embracing social media is something that's going to make you potentially look old. It doesn't mean you need to be on Twitter and tweeting all the time, or doing Instagram or whatever, but being familiar with them, especially if you happen to be in the marketing arena in any manner, shape, or form, this is a huge part of marketing. Not quite so much in B2B as it is in B2C, but certainly social media is important. So Twitter is a great source of information. Start following organizations on Twitter. Start following people who are in your industry on Twitter. You're gonna end up finding like great articles and information that you might not have found otherwise. So people having a LinkedIn profile. Really just as important as a resume. If you're not on LinkedIn, you're basically invisible. And having a profile, we're going to go through LinkedIn and talk a little bit about what to have on LinkedIn, but it's just as important as having a resume today. Get yourself up to speed in your industry or just in the business world in general. Read the Wall Street Journal, read trade publications, follow online blogs. The internet is this amazing, wealth of information. So use it. Be curious. I always find it interesting how I can just literally Google a question and find out information that, literally 10 years ago, God only knows how I would have found it out. Join professional groups. This is going to, again, help you be current. And I don't just mean online. I mean also groups where you will physically meet people, where you will get out of behind your computer, out of your house, dress professionally, and start meeting people who are currently in your industry and who can potentially be helpful to you. Attend webinars, attend workshops and conferences. Again, like a webinar like today is great, but it's not going to be physically going someplace and meeting people. So being up on technology, having a high energy level, and looking current physically, meaning hairstyle and dress. That means no yoga pants and ponytails. Those are the things that are going to counteract age discrimination. Yes, there is age discrimination. There is nothing you can do about the year that you're born. So just, accept it, get on with it, and control the things that you can control. So this leads to the next component, which is investing in yourself. And again, I said some of these are going to overlap. They certainly do. I am going to make a really sexist comment right now, but one of the things that I have found in working with people is that men are much more willing to invest in themselves than women are. And to be honest, I really find that sad. It's crazy to me that we will like plunk down like $1,500 so one of our kids can play travel soccer, with of course no real hope of that child ever playing professional soccer, let alone receiving a college scholarship to play soccer. But when it comes to spending $100 or $200 to attend a workshop or a seminar, somebody will say they can't tell me that they can't afford it. So, really investing in yourself, I really think is critical, and you're going to get it back. This isn't just like money you're throwing away. I mean, you're gonna get this back. So whether it's taking classes, attending workshops, if you feel like there's some kind of a certification that's gonna bring you up to speed in whatever it was you were doing before, makeup, wardrobe, investments. And I have worked with a few, actually I'm working with a woman right now up in Wisconsin who has been very refreshing to me, the amount of money that she has decided to invest in herself in a number of different ways. And I really think it's going to pay out, tremendously down the road. So don't be penny wise and pound foolish. You're worth it. Your job search is worth it, and certainly your career is worth it. So I'm thinking we probably are all old enough to know who these women on the left are. Yes, our designing women that we thought looked so great and professional with their big hair and their big shoulders. And I'm sure probably that's not how any of us look, but some of those old work clothes that we've kept around, that's kind of how those clothes may look. So, look at, what professionals are wearing. Go online and the wardrobe for the work, unless you're in a really conservative, maybe law/accounting, kind of an environment, the work wardrobe is not what it was in the 80s. And sometimes it's a little appalling what the millennials think is acceptable to wear to work. But, invest in yourself, because it's going to help you with your confidence, and it's going to make you feel better. And I always tell people, get a couple of interview outfits prior to interviewing. Don't put that stress on yourself that you get an email that says, we'd love for you to come in on Thursday for an interview, and you're like, yay, and then you're like, crap, I have nothing to wear. So invest in it and have it tailored, and do whatever you need to do so that you are ready to go when those opportunities present themselves. So the third component, gaining confidence. Again, a lot of these things are going to help you gain confidence. Becoming current, investing in yourself. Those are going to help you with this third one, gaining confidence. And I'm not sure what happens when we take a step back from the workforce, but for some unknown reason, we seem to lose some of the confidence that we had back then. And it seems to happen sort of across the board to everybody. It's not gender specific. It's non-denominational. I don't know how to say that. Non-gender specific. Don't apologize for taking a career break. So whether it was for your health, a spouse's health, a family member's health, your kids, elderly parents, whatever it is, a move due to a spouse's job, it is what it is. Move on. Or taking a step back and maybe going part-time, or making a career choice that created balance in your life, or being laid off. The good thing that came out of the recession, the most recent recession, was that there's no longer any stigma to this. Everybody knows somebody that was laid off. Everybody knows, maybe they were laid off themselves. People have been through it. It's okay. It's not like it was back in the day. In gaining confidence, some of it has to be how you are talking about yourself, and the word choices that you use. So when you say, I'm just I've been out of the workforce for X amount of time, or I'm just a stay-at-home mom, or I'm a stay-at-home dad, or I'm a caregiver, you start to downplay yourself. And if you don't value yourself, then truly nobody else will. So start thinking about your skills and your strengths. What are you good at? What comes easily to you? These are the things that we don't value, but other people do. Things that tend to come easy to us, those are our strengths. If you're not clear about what your strengths are, or what the value is that you're bringing to an organization or to a volunteer situation you're involved in, ask other people for input. It's always amazing to me how other people can see us better than we can see ourselves. And while so often in life we focus on what we're not good at, no one's going to hire you for your weaknesses. So you might as well just focus on your strengths, figure out what they are, do some self-assessment to help figure them out, and start verbalizing these as the value that you're going to bring to a new organization. Make your job search a priority. Again, being current, investing in yourself, building that confidence you need, all really, really important. But if you don't make your job search a priority, you're never going to get anywhere. And it's tough, because right now you have a very full day and a very full week. So it's deciding that this decision that you've made to look for a new opportunity to return to the workforce is a priority, and you're going to push some other things aside, and you're going to insert this into your into your week. I'm a big believer in setting goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, but be realistic. Come up with things that you can realistically do and you're going to feel good. I'm a big list maker. I don't know if the rest of you are, but I feel good when I cross things off a list. Other people, that's not their thing. But making the realistic list, I'm going to reach out to 3 people this week. I'm going to set a coffee next week with somebody. I'm going to research some workshops or some resources that might help me get up to speed in some of the skills that I'm lacking. And hold yourself accountable. It's tough. Or find somebody else to work with who will help I can't even say that, help hold you accountable. I know that if I was to say to Lucy, I will get you, X, Y, and Z by Friday, I will totally do it. That's who I am. If I say to Mary Beth, I'm going to finish this by Friday, yeah, maybe I will and maybe I won't. So, being accountable is a big deal. And I know that you've all heard this little phrase about looking for a new position as a full-time job. It truly is. And the more that you treat it like one, the better it's going to be, and the more productive you're going to be. And, that includes setting hours and a place to work. And this is a great time, not your first day back in the workforce, but today, to start making some changes in chores and responsibilities, that are shared by family members. And if you're not really serious about it and it's important and it's not important to you, then it's not going to be important to them. It's truly up to you if you let other things get in the way, or you decide that this is a priority and you're gonna figure out how to make things work, which may include maybe giving up some things, and sometimes that's difficult for us to do. So this next slide, I'm going to share with you something that I put together for some of my clients a while ago, and all it is a Excel spreadsheet, and it's basically a time management tool. And I know this is kind of small, so I don't know how easily you can see this. And for some reason, Sunday fell off my week. I'm not quite sure why that happened, but I'm kind of a big believer in 7-day weeks, not 6-day weeks. So Sunday is there, just not sure why it's not on the slide. So this is like a weekly spreadsheet that some of my clients use, and it's really about thinking, okay, on the left column here's a number of things that I could be doing to further my job search. And sometimes when you're done with one, you move on. When you've got a good LinkedIn profile, then you move on to something else. You don't keep tweaking it because that's just a waste of time. And thinking about, okay, here's some potential things I could be doing, but what's my priority list this week? And how am I going to fit it into my week? And make dates, set appointments, put it on your calendar. If you have a 9 o'clock dentist appointment on Thursday, I guarantee you will be there. So treat it the same way. At 9 o'clock on Thursday, from 9 to 11:30, I am going to work on my resume. On Friday, from 2 to 4, I am going to do some research on companies that are in this industry. One of the things that is interesting, and this is all about what you're going to do, but I had this aha moment not that long ago when I was working with the client and we were doing some assessment work and we were doing Myers-Briggs. And one of the things that came up in her Myers-Briggs was deciding what you aren't going to do is just as important as deciding what you are going to do. And it was just this aha to me, and I thought, wow, that's really true. And I, for the first 30 years of my career, I got in a car or on a bus or on a train and I went to an office. And now I work from my home, so I have a home office. And it took me quite a while to realize that I need to act like I am physically going to an office. And therefore, those dirty dishes in the sink can stay there and they're not going to bother anybody. Just like if I got in a car and I and I drove to an office, believe me, I wouldn't be thinking about them and no one's going to break into my house and clean them while I'm gone. And if they do, then that would be fabulous. So really, those are the things that will piddle away the time and will not get you, the days turn into weeks, turn into months, and you're no further along. So really focusing on what is it that I want to do and what are my priorities, and making sure that I am getting those kinds of things done. So the slide here, yes, no, this is not my real desk. It's not even close. I do have some piles, but they don't look like anything like that. How and where are you working is important as well. I know this looks like the hoarder show, but it's just to make a point that if you surround yourself with distractions, it's going to be very hard to stay focused. So I truly suggest that people have their own computer, laptop, if possible. I know sometimes that might not be possible, but your job, search should not be, second string to your kids' whatever history report that they need to do. Dedicate a place to work, and it could be multiple places, and maybe you want to mix it up. So whether it's a home office, going to the library, I mean, even a card table in a corner. You do not need to spend, tons of money on furniture or, do all kinds of crazy stuff. All you need to do is have a segregated place to work and to store your files. So really think about that. Starbucks, obviously it's crazy the number of people that use Starbucks as their office, or a combination, but really, try some different things out. See what works best for you. And again, all related to making your job search a priority. So maybe at this point, Lucy, are there any questions that have come up that might be relevant to talk about right now?
Yes, actually there are. There's one, the first one that came up, actually you touched in on number 3, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about it.
Okay.
It's returning to work after leaving to do elder care. Like, how would you talk about that in an interview or in your application?
Well, I mean, I think the more, and it's like fill in the blank. It can be elder care, it can be staying home with kids, it can be a health issue. It's all about just, first of all, nobody cares about the details, okay? So as involved or as emotional or whatever the situation is, you have to realize that nobody cares about that. What they care about is they have a job that's open and they want to know if you can do the job. And that's what you need to focus on. So I might say something like, I recently took a career break for 2 years, dealing with some health issues related to my elderly parents. The situation has currently been resolved, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to work. And the reason I'm so interested in your opportunity as an XYZ is, and then you just keep going on that actual opportunity, and not, because that's what you want to focus on is that opportunity and why you're a great fit for it, not why you haven't been working the last couple of years. Does that make sense? Lucy? Are you there? Okay, well, I'm just going to keep going because I'm not quite sure what happened here, and I'm hoping that you can all hear me. Okay, so we've talked about the 4 components of success in returning to the workforce. So now let's talk about the job search itself. And there's 3 key things that I think are critical in your job search. One is having a focus, knowing what you're looking for. 2 is having the necessary tools, and we've touched on some of those earlier in this conversation. And 3 is following an effective process. So focus. It's okay if you don't know exactly what it is you're looking for. It's okay. You might not feel like it's okay, and other people might not think it's okay, but it's okay and it's really common. So do some exploring. There's two words that I really like to use. One is exploring, as the other one is advice. And so frequently, if you were to say to somebody, I've decided that I'm returning to the workforce, and they say, what are you looking for? And this is the part where you're like, I don't know. And so that conversation can't go any further, because if you don't know, then how is that person supposed to react to that? But if you said, actually, I'm doing some exploring. I haven't decided exactly what I want to do. You know, I used to be an accountant, and I really love that kind of work, but I've had a lot of experiences over the past few years, and I'm exploring some other things that maybe might be a better fit for me in this, this leg of my career path. And so this is an opportunity for you to meet with some people, to think about different positions, to have informational interviews. People love to talk about themselves and their organizations, and sometimes these can turn into opportunities. Now, don't plan on it, because they probably won't, but really think about, what is it that I want to get from this interview? What do I want to find out from this person? Don't ask them questions that you can find out yourself. Ask them questions that are more in-depth. They're going to help you figure out what it is that you want, what's going to be a fit for you next. Ultimately, you are going to have to narrow your focus. But it can be more than one type of position. Hopefully, they're not dramatically different, because if they are, that becomes a little bit challenging. But yeah, as long as you have, I'm thinking about something in the financial arena, and maybe it could be in banking, or it could be insurance, or something like that is perfectly fine. One of the things I hear from people frequently, people who are returning to the workforce say, well, I can do anything. Sadly, there are no I can do anything kinds of jobs, and no, you can't do anything. So that's sort of like what I feel like the cheater's way out. They just kind of say that, thinking like somebody else is going to do the work for them and figure out what they'd be good at. So do some homework. Try to figure out what you think is going to be, a really good fit for you. I had a personal experience with somebody like this. It was a friend of a friend. And this individual said to me, hey, Mary Beth, would you meet with Susan? She's looking to return to work, and and I said, sure, I would be happy to do that. So we had lunch, and she was so all over the place. I had absolutely no idea how I could help her or who I could even introduce her to. And I left feeling really frustrated, because I genuinely did want to help this person, but I had no idea what she would do, or even what she was looking for, or who she wanted to even meet. And it was funny, because about a month later, she emailed me and said, oh, I just wanted to update you that my husband and I have decided that we're going to move to the Bahamas because we're buying a TV station. And I almost fell over, because I thought, well, that wasn't anywhere in the realm of things that we talked about, so maybe that's why she had no idea what she wanted to do. I'm not sure. But, people can only help you if you can give them some kind of a focus as to what you want to do. All right, let's move on from focus to tools. So tools for your search. There are other things people use in their job search, but these are the basics. Having a business card, having a resume, and having a really good LinkedIn profile. So let's talk about some of these basics. So a business card. This is one of the first questions I ask people, is like, do you have a business card when we start working together? And I would say 9 times out of 10 people say no. They don't even think about it. And it's such a basic thing, and it's so inexpensive. Vistaprints.com, I would say $15, maybe less, for like 100 business cards. These are both templates from Vistaprints, and it's a way. You used to have a business card. It's just a way to be professional, let people remember you, and let people remember what it is that you're looking for, what area or industry is your thing. So basic information. Cell phone and email are must. Address isn't required. I have them on here, but you don't need to put your street address and your city. Sometimes people put city and state. Again, sometimes they don't. Putting some kind of a descriptor, though. Here I put marketing / branding / public relations. Again, not somebody who's saying, I'm looking to be, a financial analyst, but something that's a little bit more generic. If you are looking to be a financial analyst, then put that down, or financial professional or something like that. If you come up with a better descriptor later on, again, they're so inexpensive. Get some new ones. It's not, it's not a big deal. Sometimes people put LinkedIn. That's becoming more and more common, to the extent that you have a more common name like Jane Smith. I would totally suggest putting it up there, because it might be really hard for me to find you on LinkedIn. A name like mine, where I got 4 names going on, it's pretty easy to find me on LinkedIn. Again, get a business card. The resume. Aha. So we are about, 2/3 of the way through the presentation, or halfway through the presentation, and this is the first time I'm talking about resume. You're getting a resume together is not the first step in a job search. It's an important step in a job search, but unless you know what you're looking for and where you want to go, I always say, why don't you hold off on putting a final resume together. You'll need to have a generic resume, but it's really best to fine-tune your resume for every position that you apply for. And yes, it's a lot of work to do that. And you don't necessarily need to redo the whole resume, but I always say to people, how badly do you want that job? If you're not going to work that hard to get it, then somebody else is. And you need to make it so clear and so easy for that hiring manager or HR person to figure out that you're a great candidate for that position. Don't think something on page 2, it is going to catch their eye, because they're probably not ever getting to page 2. So, sections of the resume: profile, which is no longer an objective about what you're looking for, but it's about what's the value that you're bringing to an organization. Having some bullets that outline what your key skills or core competencies or qualifications are that you're bringing to an organization. And again, these are really the 2 sections that can be easily fine-tuned for any position. Look at what that organization is looking for, and figure out how you can easily highlight that on your resume. Obviously, including your prior work background, focusing on your accomplishments, making those as quantifiable as possible. And no, you don't need to include all your prior positions. That's a question that people ask all the time. You'll hear things like, include your last 10 years, include your last 15 years of work. Include what's relevant. That's what I say. And sometimes, even like if your first couple of jobs out of college were at really big names, sometimes it's worthwhile to include those as well. Not in great detail, but at least some of the names and the positions that you had there, maybe with even a 1-line descriptor. And then fill in the gap. So if you've been out of the workforce for 10 years, have a section that says relevant, experience during parental leave, or relevant experience during career break, and put in some of the work that you've done that is relevant. So it could be volunteer experience. It could be with the elder care patient, talking about being an advocate. Being an advocate or an ombudsman between, like the medical professions and the patient. There's different ways to describe, some of the really valuable things that you've done. And I could go on, and we could talk about just, this element or this tool, for the next hour. But, again, these are some of the key things in a resume. And one of the key things that isn't necessary is personal information. If it's not relevant to the job, don't include it. Now, if you are, applying to something at, Outward Bound or something, and you're like, some outdoorsy person and you rock climb and do something, I don't know, whatever, then maybe it is relevant, but most of the time it's not. Nobody cares if you're married or not married. Nobody cares, about certain other things. You can include volunteer work. That's totally fine. Again, try to make it as gutsy and as relevant as possible. LinkedIn. So here's a little snippet. LinkedIn profile. Not that it's so perfect, because I don't think there is one that's perfect, but this is just the top part, sort of like the little snapshot, and then the personalized summary. Look at other people, see what they put up there. But here are the basics that you need to include with your LinkedIn. Your profile should include a picture, absolutely, not with other people in it. You don't have to pay a lot of money for a headshot. Just find some friend who's, a good photographer or a decent photographer, try a bunch of pictures and find something that works. Include a descriptive title. So frequently people just have the title of whatever their current job is, but like you can see, mine says career coach, job search strategist, consultant, and then it has the title of my company. No one is going to go searching on LinkedIn for the president of Second Career Consulting. It is not going to happen. But they might be looking for a career coach in the greater Chicago area. So that's a better thing for me to put in my title. Obviously include your experience, but also include a personalized summary. And this can be in the first person. Mine is in the third person, but you can include it in the first person about having it make sense. Maybe some of the volunteer work you did and combining that with your prior professional experience and why it makes sense as to what you're currently looking for. Skills are things that people endorse you for. Ask people that you used to work with for recommendations. And certainly your contact information. I suggest only email. Have a professional email, meaning like not AOL, because that will make you look old. Gmail is sort of the personal email of choice these days. So if you don't have a Gmail account, think about doing that. So we talked about focus, we talked about tools, let's talk about process. So networking, researching, and then applying for positions. Network. It's not as bad as you think it is. And it's not about asking people if they know about any jobs. I really view networking as just having a strategic conversation. And even the most introverted of us talks to other people. So rather than saying to somebody, hey, so what have you been doing lately, or any vacations this summer, ask them about work. What is it you do? I say, what is it you do again? I forgot, even though I never knew to start with. And people start talking about what they do in their businesses, or maybe what they used to do. And then, they'll hopefully ask you, what do you do? And you say, well, as a matter of fact, I'm returning to the workforce. And from there, you start networking and a conversation happens. Reconnecting with former colleagues is, I think, so important, and it's so good. It's so good for our ego because we are frozen in time. They remember us, as the person that, helped figure out that big problem with that client situation, or turn that customer situation that was going south positive, and it ended up being a great relationship. We truly are frozen in time, and LinkedIn is a great way to find those people and reconnect. And if you would be happy to hear from them, they will be happy to hear from you. Don't underestimate that. I always think about people I know in categories: friends, neighbors, relatives, people you know through church and through synagogue or volunteer committees, whatever it is. Don't dismiss anybody. It's not really about what they do, it's about who they know. And when you're networking, face-to-face is significantly more effective than a phone call, and a phone call is more effective than email, but email is a great way to set it up and to start the conversation. I talked about elevator pitch a little bit, or I mentioned it, but one of the things that I find people do is they start with an elevator pitch that they need to flip the other way. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of a bad one and then a good one. Frequently somebody might say, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids and I've been home for 6 years and now I'm looking for a job. And if that's my elevator pitch, what I'm going to remember is you're a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids. Now, that's not what you want me to remember. But if you said, alternatively, I'm a marketing, communications, and branding specialist. I've worked on consumer packaged good brands such as Tide and Keebler cookies. And I've taken a short career break and I'm looking to re-enter the workforce. Sounds totally different, and the conversation that will continue from that is going to be dramatically different. So think about those things, and networking is key. Researching. Thinking about researching by industry, by geography, by company size, and also by your network. Where do the people that you work with, that you know, that you're connected with, where do they work? LinkedIn is like this beautiful thing. You can tell I'm like this born-again LinkedIn person. But we can find out so many things about people. It's a client that I'm working with that has literally, she's living in Denver. She has an opportunity in Washington. And I just decided to go on LinkedIn to see if I knew anybody that worked at that organization. And coincidentally, a very good friend of my daughter's works at that organization. So my daughter happened to know this person too, so she put them together, and that person was so helpful in giving this person insight into what her interview process was like, maybe what to expect on this video interview that she was having, a Skype kind of interview. And you know, it's just amazing how we can make the world so much smaller and so much easier. And people are more than happy to help you out. It's really interesting.
Mary Beth,
right.
sorry,
Yes.
I hate to interrupt you. Just to let you know that we have fewer than 15 minutes left,
Yep.
and we've got more than 24 questions that have popped
Well,
up.
I'm sure we're not going to get to all the questions. I'm
No.
going to go really quickly through the last couple, like spend like 2 minutes, and then we'll go right into questions, okay?
Great. Sure.
Thanks so much. Okay. So the process. Do not hide behind your computer. Just apply for jobs online. That is probably the least likely way you're going to get something. You can always apply online, but try to find another way into an organization. Try to find somebody you know that works there that will, you know, present you to the hiring manager or to the HR person. It can make a huge difference between being considered and not being considered. You know, where should you look for jobs? There's all kinds of places, but some of the industry-specific sites are really good places to look. Things like NPO for nonprofit, DICE for tech. There are a ton of them out there. So just, again, you know, Google will find things for us that we don't know about. So if you're in a certain industry, why don't you just, you know, do a search for those kinds of websites, and I bet you'll find some. You know, Glassdoor is a great, another great resource, as well as LinkedIn. Companies post jobs on both of those, and Glassdoor will give you insight from other individuals who have posted things. Companies can't vet it, it's just individually posted about salary information, what interviews were like, what to expect, things like that. So, just to summarize, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, it takes a village to find a job, so go ahead and use yours. You know, be positive, be specific about what you're looking for, refine your elevator pitch, you know, and think outside of the box. You know, there's all kinds of ways to get going, and this first thing that you get is probably just a stepping stone. So don't try to make it the end-all, be-all, you know, job. Be patient, I know that's tough, and be thankful. You know, thank the people that have helped you, keep them posted during the process, and certainly, you know, when it ends. Last but not least, lots of great resources. Obviously, your Alumni Career Services is a fabulous place to start. iRelaunch is sort of the original group that that really focused on women then, but now men and women returning to the workforce. There's a lot of other organizations out there now that are doing it as well. So look into that. And I've included my information in case anybody wants to reach out to me. And okay, I'm done. Why don't we do some questions?
Okay, great. Just to let everybody know, because I've seen a lot of these go by, we will be providing the slide deck and the recording to you probably sometime next week. So if you registered for the event and you're on the call, you will be getting it. And I thought I would just combine some of them because there's so many. There's a lot of interest. There were questions about how do you find a career coach? Does it make sense to get a career coach in your own city, or can you do it through the phone or online, or what are your recommendations?
All of the above, I mean, so there's different ways to, different people have different needs. I personally work with people on the phone, although a lot of the people that I work with, I meet in person. And so I think you have to think about what your specific needs are and what's going to fit you best. Certainly I would talk to people, because that's what I have found is most of my business is through referrals. It's through people who have worked with me or who know me. But it's certainly, actually, you guys at University of Chicago, at your Alumni Career Services, you have coaches there, right? That people can talk to. And there's a number of different coaching organizations like the International Federation of Coaches that have some referrals. So, again, I would just maybe talk to some people that and ask around, and then also maybe do some research online and, go to either University of Chicago or, if you went to grad school or undergrad someplace else, there might be some services there as well.
Yeah, we do coaching for people who are either currently at the university or 5 years out. That's what our specialty is. So, but anyways, okay, that's great though. It's great information. Some other questions are about networking in general. Like, what if you don't really think you have a network, or you have a very minimal LinkedIn profile? What's the best way to build up your network and to fill out that LinkedIn profile?
Well, I've had a lot of people tell me that they don't have a very big network. And when I first started, when I first put my LinkedIn profile together a long time, years ago, I thought, I don't ever want to be one of those 500 plus people, because they don't know all those people. Nobody knows that many people truly. And it is always amazing to me the number of people that I do know. I used to work with them, or they're a neighbor, or they're a parent of one of my kids' friends or something. People I truly know that I'm still not connected with. So just think about people, think about people in groups. I mean, start with your neighborhood, with your block, and, connect with those people. Think about those friends from college you haven't seen in a while and try to find them. Think about people that you used to work with, and again, try to find them. And then, if you don't have a great LinkedIn profile, well, put it on your to-do list and start, putting one together. Go look at other people. See what they have on their LinkedIn profile, and maybe that will help you. Oh, that's a great idea. I should do that as well. Just some miscellaneous thoughts. But again, I've heard people say make a list of everyone you know. That's a bad idea. Start with 5 people. Start with 3 people. 3 people you know. Then add 2 more. Then add 2 more, and eventually you're going to have a lot more people than you ever thought you would have.
Great, okay. We have a lot of people who have great volunteer experience, and is there a way to take the skills that you've used in your volunteer experience and help beef up your resume so that it makes sense to people to interview you and perhaps give you a job?
Absolutely. There's usually I suggest to people this fill in the gap concept, which is putting in, pick some significant things that you've done not everything that you've done, but some significant things that you've done that have skills that are relevant to a new position. So it could be something like maybe like one of the women I worked with did some promotion, and she was involved in a fundraising thing for a number of years. And one of the roles she took on was to promote it to local news agencies, and she got a write-up in the Sun-Times and something else, and they were able to grow, I don't know, they increased their funds by like 300%, or those are the kinds of things that you want to include. Or another client of mine was involved in a search. Her kids go to a private school, and they were looking for the new head of the school, and so she was on the search committee, and they hired a consultant, and they went through the whole interview and search process. I mean, that is no different than something that you would do and be paid for in the workforce. So think of it, think of things that way. It could be managing 50 volunteers and at some fundraiser, and how it was able to grow, twice as big as the year before under your leadership. Those are the kinds of things to think about including.
Great, and I have one last one. I mean, there's a lot of them. But I chose this one because it was something that I hadn't thought about, and it's somebody who has a great deal of work experience in the past, and I'm assuming, I'm reading between the lines, that they've retired and now they want to go back to work, and they're thinking about an entry-level position, maybe because it's in a field that they've never done before. How would you present somebody like that who's serious that they want this kind of position that normally would go to somebody, perhaps that has no work experience?
Right. Those are tricky, and not tricky as in not doable, but tricky, and you need to do it the right way. So the way that it's not going to work would be for you to just apply for an entry-level position in this totally different field and think, oh, well, they're going to see how seasoned I am, and I'll be great at this entry-level position, because I've received those resumes, and I think to myself, I think they applied for the wrong job, and I move on to the next one. So I would suggest those are the kinds of things that networking will get you into. Talking to people in that field, talking to people about, how would they suggest that if you were interested in working at an XYZ company in an entry-level position because you don't want to, be an attorney anymore, you really want to work as a vet tech or something, I don't know. How does that work? And to me, it's through personal relationships that you build that you will potentially be considered for those kinds of opportunities.
Well, that's a great answer. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and there's a whole, the Wall Street Journal has a lot of sections and articles these days on periodically on Encore Careers for people who have retired, because our retirement is not going to be our parents' or, God forbid, our grandparents' retirement, because we're going to live so long and we're healthy and we're active. So look up Encore Careers. There's encore.com or .org, I can't remember, ENCORE. There's books out on it, lots of interesting stuff out there.
Cool. Well, I think we've ended on a really high note. Many thanks to everyone for joining us for today's presentation. A special thank you to you, Mary Beth, for this informative presentation. I really appreciate it, and I know
my pleasure. Happy to do it.
Well, as a reminder, please watch for your email for a link to the recording of today's presentation along with a follow-up survey. We also invite you to join us online at careers.uchicagoalumni.org, where you'll find information about upcoming events, webinar archives, and our jobs board, and a form to let us know when you've hired another UChicago grad at your organization. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next Alumni Career Webinar. Take care, everyone. Bye.